Hello and welcome back to 8-Bit Keys. Today I've got a couple of surprises for you. The first thing I want to show you, of course, is the main attraction, which is this Casio TA-10 keyboard. Now, this keyboard, I don't even know exactly when it was even manufactured. There's no dates on it, and I haven't even been able to find a copy of the user's manual online anywhere to look. I'm thinking it was made in the 1990s, but we'll find out here in a little bit when we take it apart. But the main thing that drew me to this keyboard was the mysterious fact that it has a cassette player on it. So let's take a closer look at this thing. So this is the Casio TA-10. I discovered this by accident while searching eBay for a different Casio. So it may look like there are 55 instruments to choose from, but this uses a quinary numbering system, so there are only really 25. See, it only has 5 number keys, although true quinary would actually be 0 to 4 instead of 1 to 5. Well, let's power it on. It defaults to piano, and it sounds decent since everything's a PCM sample. However, as you can see, it only has 2-voice polyphony. But it does have some interesting samples. Here's where things get really weird. On the rear, there are literally only these 2 ports, power and microphone. There's no headphone jack, no output of any kind. Let's try the cassette deck. I'll use the Retro Grooves Volume 3 as a test. Okay, well, it works. The speakers are awful, and there's no bass at all, it's pure treble. Looking at the cassette controls, you have play, rewind, fast forward, and stop eject. But notice that there is no record button, and that's what makes this keyboard so confusing to me. I mean, it has a microphone port in the rear, but you can't record anything onto cassette. And since there's no headphone jack, there's no way to really enjoy listening to music cassettes on this thing either. So it's one of those situations where I find myself wondering, what were they thinking when they designed this thing? Okay, so before I do any serious demonstration of the sounds on this thing, now obviously it's going to need to have some kind of line-out modification. I mean, it doesn't even have a headphone jack. So let's do that right quick, and then I got a surprise for you. Well, to do much with this thing, I'm going to need to have to disassemble it. There are 14 screws on the bottom to remove. And there we go. Looks like I should have taken the batteries out. Well, it looks like the entire keyboard side of this thing is on this one board here. It's a single chip design and apparently uses the same chip that I found in the Casio SA9, which I reviewed a while back. And this isn't terribly surprising because when I was playing it, I noticed many similarities, such as the 2-voice polyphony, but also the sound of the samples, which means there's a good chance there's another 75 hidden sounds that are accessible on this by hacking in another 5 buttons so you can type any number from 0 to 99. And here is the cassette unit, which is more or less an off-the-shelf cassette system. Notice that the buttons push in directly, but they're using a lever design which uses a perpendicular force. And of course over here is the amplifier board for both the cassette and synthesizer part of the keyboard. Also of interest, I found the date code which shows it was manufactured around July of 1992. So I was 17 years old when this was made. Well, time to add some output jacks. I picked this spot over here since there isn't much in the way. And I always like to use masking tape to mark my holes. And when making more than one jack, I always like to draw a straight line so that the jacks line up. And since this keyboard is stereo, I'll need 2 jacks. Okay, there we go. Typically red is for the right speaker, so I'll try to wire it to normal convention. all done. I'm going to close it up and do a little test to see if it's working. I'll plug in my 1980s boombox for testing. Okay, I do hear the sound coming from the boombox. Of course, it's still coming from the internal speakers too. Let's see if there's any more bass on our cassette. Wow, the difference is actually quite noticeable. For comparison, let's listen to the clip I took earlier. Well, I think that's going to work, so I'll screw it back together. Okay, and so the surprise for you is that Anders Jensen is back after 2 years. Now, I know in a previous episode I did on the B-Music keyboard, I said this. Next time Anders Jensen's over here, I'm going to make him compose a song on the B-Music keyboard, and we'll see what he can come up with. Okay, but he already picked up his own B-Music keyboard and already did a song on it. In fact, you can hear a piece of it here. So I didn't think there was much point in having him do another piece on the B-Music, so I thought, well, gee, while he's here, I'll just have him go ahead and give a shot at doing this Casio here. So I let him borrow the Casio for a couple of days, and he came up with a song. Now, I will mention, he cheats a little bit sometimes. So
I do.
Because this keyboard doesn't really, I mean, it has 3 manual drums, but they're not like, you don't have access to all the drums. So he sampled the drums from one of the drum tracks and kind of rearranged it into his own. But the drum sounds do come from the keyboard. They're just not being played from the keyboard.
Exactly. The problem with this keyboard is it's only 2 voice polyphony. So I have to play 2 voices at one time, and then I have to double the other voices afterwards. So it would be like this. So I had to do that for all the parts that you were using more than 2 notes at the same time. And this keyboard doesn't have any bass sounds other than the tuba sound, which sounds like this. And that's not nearly deep enough, so in order to get a bass line, I recorded the part as I wanted, and then I used an octave filter and transpose it afterwards. So it's a little bit cheating, but I hope you still enjoy the results. I don't know.
So, let's have a listen. also wanted to mention that basically all the music you've heard in this video, whether it was the music that he just created on the keyboard or some of the incidental music you were hearing in the background earlier, is all from this guy. And he also has a vinyl record out now, and some of the songs you heard earlier in the background are on this record. Of course, you can also get the cassette tape and mini disc now. Yeah, he's got mini discs available.
But I also recorded all the sounds as they are, and they're all free downloads on my website, as well as a link in the description.
Anyway, so check that out. I'll put some links in the description field, and as always, thanks for watching.